It's crazy how every year feels like year one, and that's what I love about this journey. And I think it also makes me feel old as well. I always feel very young each year because it's a new team, it's a new season. You're not coaching last year's team with new personnel. It's a new challenge, and I'm really excited about what this group can do and the momentum they can create as a unit. I think that's what we're trying to discover right now is putting the pieces of the puzzle together, which is always I'm a realist, like we're not where we need to be, but that's why we're in October right now. So I'm excited to see what we can do, how we can put this together. But I do think this team has the potential to be one of the best teams that's ever played here. Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that's undeniable when you watch our team is that we're just tall. We have a very tall group of people. This is our first year where we've had a lot of depth in our front court. And I think a lot of our fans will be excited about that. It's one of the first questions people always ask me is like, when are you going to get some post players? I'm like, okay, I think we've done just okay until this point, but so that'll be a fun challenge putting that together. But that, and then the versatility that comes along with that, being able to move a Perry Page from a 4 to a 3, a Hilka from a 3 to a 4, a Susie from a 5 to a 4, Fliss from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4, right? So the versatility piece always causes a little bit of confusion, I think, early on, but it pays off dividends later down the stretch. So, like I said, versatility and size are definitely some of our greatest strengths right now. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Each year you're going to have a similar mission, right? Like we talk a lot about getting all of us the same boat, rowing in the same direction with the same mission in mind. And that's just a constant every year. That's something I talk about with every team that we have. For this team, they really want to win the Ivy League tournament. That's a big goal for them. Obviously repeating. Susie and Perry would love to cleanly sweep for 4 years and be Ivy League champs each one of their 4 years here. But as a team, I think that they really have their eyes set on trying to accomplish getting that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. And then beyond that, it's not just it ends there. This team is constantly seeking ways to do new things. But in terms of when you bring it down to more of a micro level and an everyday, we just talk about getting 1% better every day, and if we're going to be 5 out of 10 one day, we better be 5.1 the next day, and not just taking these big swoops in either direction. So we have a great group. This is, I would say, one of the more well-adjusted first-year classes to college, just the transition to college, which is always extremely overwhelming at times, and usually it hits everybody at a different point in their first year, but this group has really done a good job at trying to be as present as possible. Nice advantage is, in the summertime, we got them all on campus for some of our camps. They got to be around the team and really immerse themselves in the culture. So it wasn't so much of a shock when they got here. I think that really helps with just like getting to know campus, honestly. And so they've done a great job at just like diving headfirst in. And I think you're going to see a lot of them this year, and I think Shay Shippen is ready to make her mark immediately. She's played at a high level. She's a coach's kid. Ernie is brings a lot of energy, and she's actually just a great leader and has a good feel for like what needs to be done. She's gonna be a little bit more of like an enforcer role for us, like kind of a defender, rebounder, get teammates open. Alicia, similar to Ernie, her energy is just off the charts. She's never has a bad day, right? Like, she's just a good kid that can separate things, that when she steps onto the court, it's really about the team. The team's always first. And then Vasiliki is uber talented point guard. She's just, needs to mature a little bit, and as do them all. But just the response-driven mindset, I think, for her will be really critical. But tons of talent. I do think that we'll get to see her a lot on the floor this year as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, I mean, my first season, it just feels like a different lifetime now at this point. But just, what I'm most proud about for that award, one is I know Kathy personally, and she was a large part of my career in the Ivy League as a player and a coach. So just to know for a trailblazer in our league, and especially at the mid-major level, to be associated with her name, I think is obviously a big compliment, and I don't take that lightly. But, reflecting back, 10 seasons ago now, we just always stuck to our vision, and I'm really proud of the staff and our players that really committed to what we said we were going to do. This is like the ultimate form of delayed gratification, right? Is when you're starting to do the things we talked about. And now we have new goals, we have new dreams, we have new things we're talking about. But, it's been a journey, I can tell you that. And I know we haven't quite done everything that I know we can do yet. So looking forward to what's next. I don't think there are any negatives or challenges to it, honestly. Like, I think, during the pandemic, obviously there were some challenges with that, right? Just like access to certain things and, getting people in. It's always just a little bit different of a process across either street, right? Now, if you're at Barnard, like we know what those systems are. We know what the Columbia systems are. And I think kudos to both admissions, financial aids departments, and all the people that support on both sides. They've really done a good job of trying to integrate and make things consistent. So the experiences aren't really different, honestly. When I was a student, it was very different. Barnard and Columbia College, very different experiences in C's. Now I feel like they share the same experiences. They live in different dorms, but they eat in the same dining halls. They do everything together. They take classes across either street. I think it gives us a really an upper hand, honestly, in so many ways. Especially with our international student athletes. That don't, the core curriculum is a little bit more rigorous in terms of reading and writing. So it provides another platform for them to have a little bit more of tailor your education to what fits you, right? So we've seen great success with it, and we love both families. And I think that is also what makes Columbia and New York City really special. Is it's not a one size fits all. You can come here and be aligned with what we do, and there's a place and a home for you. Yeah. I think like when I first came here, it was like, how are we different? How are we going to be different? What's our identity going to be? Where are we going to go find players where we're recruiting against different people? And we sort of create a brand outside of the Ivy League. And so we recruited really hard in the South, in like Florida and Georgia. And then we went and recruited internationally. And that's when we got, I think our first player was actually from England. And then after that, we had inherited a player from Germany. But it was just a slow roll, Then we got really into Spain and Australia and started getting some players from those two places. But once you put yourself in those arenas, right, you just learn a little bit more, and then you create a brand and a pipeline for yourself. So, honestly, I love how we recruit. I love traveling the world. I love to see different cultures. I think that's the beauty of a place like Columbia University in New York City as well, is it reflects the institution. And I was always big on that, creating a team and a roster, is that if the team doesn't reflect the institution, the team isn't going to be successful. And so for me, putting together a team of multicultural people from all over the world is largely what I think is why our team has been successful, is because there's resources here for everybody, and you can truly be yourself and grow together in that. Yeah, we love our Barnard players. We love the empowerment of women that Barnard is. And I think that's what they really embrace. And it's like, to be the only all-female institution that's left from all the liberal arts colleges, including all the Ivy League schools, is that's, to me, that's a huge bonus for us. Is that, these women are really embraced over there and cultivated to be leaders in whatever field that they want. So I think how that impacts our program and our team is that, we have people that are able to share those experiences with our players here across the other side of the street and vice versa. So it's not just limited to just the Barnard College experience, but the Columbia athletics experience as well, which is such a fabulous combination of two worlds. So I just think they bring a lot of different, hey, this is what we're doing over there, and then we're able to share ideas and make sure that we can collaborate even more. Yeah. Riley's going to take 400. No. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be committee, right? Like, that's what, Mia Broom is a scorer. Shay Shippen is a scorer and a shooter. You're going to see, I think, those two players, even Susie and Perry, we're leaning into them more as scorers this year. And they both have the capability of being able to stretch the defense, but I don't think it's going to be two players. I think it's going to be, again, by committee, we're going to fill that gap. And those were two really experienced players as well. So, like I always say to them, it's like there's a lot of space to take, and it's like, who wants some of those 3-pointers, right? Like, and then Susie's raising her hand, and now Perry's raising her hand, now Fliss is raising her hand, Maria. So I'm excited to see how our identity evolves over the course of this season. But right now, I would say, Mia is really taking a lot of those shots too. So, which I'm excited about. She's worked really hard on that. Yeah, we tried that a couple times. No, so Fliss is going to be our point guard. She's going to be our secondary ball handler. So Fliss and Maria will share responsibilities and play alongside each other, but also play and supplement each other too when they're in and out of the game. And then Vasiliki, our freshman, she's a super talented player. She just needs to learn how to play the college game and at the college pace. I like how we're evolving there. And then Mia is going to be some taking over some tertiary ball handling roles and responsibilities. And of course, you have a Riley who's very capable. It's just her natural position. So it's going to be a little bit more by committee, but, Maria and Fliss are going to dominate the point.
Right now.
Yeah, what I was most impressed about with Mia, there's a lot. I give Mia a hard time a lot. She's like a bull in a china shop, right? But Mia, what I've been most impressed about is just her physical fitness and level of readiness when she came back this year. You don't really see that a lot in your freshman to sophomore year jump. Usually that's an upperclassman jump where it's like I come back and like I'm crushing the run test and I'm able to just go longer and harder than everybody else. But she's been by far, her and Perry have made the most transformation this past year in terms of just like physical readiness, which allows them to play harder for longer without having to go to their mental reserves, right? So, now we're challenging Mia to think a little bit more, but, she is absolutely going to make a big impact, in both scrimmages. She's logged some of the most minutes coming off the bench for us. And, she's going to be somebody that like we're going to ride with a lot of times. So, it's on our upperclassmen to make sure they bring her along. The business has changed so much. I get to do what I do for the transformational, not the transactional. So it's, to me, what we're selling in recruiting is the same thing that they're getting when they get here. It's not, hey, you're selling this, we're just talking about money all the time, then you come here and there's no relationship, right? So to me, it's like, that's what's, I guess, fulfilling about that, is that it's actually what we talk about in the recruiting process. It's not just like, hey, we're trying to make sure that you feel like the most important thing, and then you get here and that's not the reality of the situation, because at the end of the day, we still got to coach you and you still got to grow, and there's going to be adversity and failure and all the things that come along with it. Whereas I think our players are probably embracing that more. I can't say that because for sure I don't coach anywhere else, but I know a lot of people that do, and I would just say that our players are a little bit more committed to their growth process here, which for me is amazing. That's why I got into this profession. I got in this profession to, affect positive influence in other people's lives, and particularly this generation and this age group. So, for me, I think I have the best job in America. I've said that a lot of times. My wife tells me that often. But, I think I have the best job in college basketball because I get to do what I do with the same people every year. And it's people that I've developed real relationships with, from my staff to my players. And people that I love. So I'm really fortunate for that. Yeah. I mean, I've been really proud of my staff and our team for like embracing it. The change is inevitable, right? It's like you would hope, just like anything, that college basketball continues to evolve as long as it's something that is not compromising our integrity or our morals. And so I'm a big believer in like, just know what you care about, right? And know what you want to endorse and what you want to give your name, image, and likeness to. And then let's educate you as much as possible, and let's help you figure out what makes sense, right? And so all of our players have participated in name, image, and likeness since they've been here. We do a lot of education around brand awareness, and also what's important to you, right? What do you want to be associated with? But, we have players, Riley Weiss, for instance, she's actually been involved with quite a lot of Jewish student athlete NIL and, the Kraft Foundation and Tribe NIL. So, and then we have international players that have worked with different shoe companies like Moolah Kicks. We want this to be a part of their experience. They look on social media and they see other people doing this. And my big thing, as long as we do it with integrity and it aligns with who we are as people, absolutely, let's go for it. So we're embracing it all. It's the Ivy League's always played a different game than everybody else, and we still will be playing that different game. But that doesn't mean that we can't figure out how to give the most to our student athletes in terms of experience. And that's NIL is part of that now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perry and Susie played together last year, and they were the 4 and the 5, but we just have more depth now. So it's like, Hilka, for instance, can come play in the 3 or 4. Marta's more like a true 4 or 5. Ernie and Alicia are more like 4 or 5s. Blau is more like a 4, right? So you just have a lot of options. You can play Fliss at the 4, which we haven't done yet because she's been playing a lot of point guard, but we'll be big, we'll be small. So, but you're going to see 2 tall people out there at all times. Yeah, it's a great question. It's, I just a big believer in like how you do anything is how you do everything. And, what we're teaching on the basketball court, I just think transcends basketball, right? So for us, we're trying to help them understand it's like the earlier you do something, right, the more awareness you're bringing to not yourself, but just everybody that's involved, what you're doing, which allows us to execute and actually execute not just on time, but before on time. I think our players too, the continuous part, and the loud part, it's like tone has to be different on different times and different moments. And when you're on the basketball court, I like to say it's like we're between these four lines, and it's loud. You're gonna have fans at the games, you're gonna have people yelling in your face, you're gonna have coaches talking, referees. You have to get used to that chaos a little bit. So that's where you have to know how to control your volume. And then continuous piece is just, basketball, like anything, should be a conversation. You should be having a conversation with your teammates on the court. And just like anything you want to solve in life or things you want to accomplish, you have to be talking to people, right? And share. Life is meant to be shared. So I just think these are just like great life lessons for us. But, we really preach ownership, accountability of ourselves and each other, because that's what great teams do, right? The most elite organizations in the world, it's not just coach fed, coach led, it's coach fed, player led. And that's really like what the crux of that is for us. Yeah. Oh man, I can't tell you because they're sitting here, but no, in terms of what I'm proud of, I would say that this is a very empathetic team. And, that's something that I think is a blessing and a curse. I think sometimes it gets in their way a little bit because they're just like are really in touch with how each other are feeling, and they want everybody to feel they're super valuable, which is, again, the best teams are 1 through 15, not 1 through 5, right? I always say the 15th player on our team, that's how good we're going to be, not just how Riley shoots the ball. That doesn't really matter. That's irrelevant to me. So they have such an others awareness, and now just putting that onto the court, I think, is their next biggest challenge. But they want it. They're having the right conversations. They're sitting in the rooms without us talking about these things. This is or probably the most like all-in team that I've had, right, since I've been here. There's always been a little bit of resistance, whether that was with somebody new to the program or a first year not quite understanding what they got themselves into. But this team is really letting go, and that's what I've been most proud of to see, is just how bad they want it, and they're willing to make the changes that we need. And we're starting to see that every day. Yeah. This year, that I don't like coaching bad basketball. No, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, I love the learning process with the players, that's kind of where I was going with this, is like, I want them to engage with me. I realize like I don't do well with blank stares. Like blank stares are just, it's the same thing. I ask them to have conversations. I want them to have conversations with me. But when we engage more and we're able to like get into it together, it's so much better than somebody just saying, yes, coach, right? And not that that's always been my teams, but this year I just don't have a Kitty Henderson, for example, that just like knows what I'm thinking, because over 4 years she was able to figure that out, right? So now I have a bunch of new players and players that are growing in their roles, that I'm just encouraging for us to have more dialogue with. And I've seen for myself that just reminds me of being a teacher, right? And that's what I love to do. So, yeah. I mean, graduation, like when they graduate, first of all, like, we've already talked about this a little bit, but we do get players for their 4 years here. And I do love that about this place is, we really grow with them. They become family. There's a lot of love in those relationships. And to see them go out and live out their dreams and have options, especially in today's economy and world, just makes me so proud. Like those moments, I can remember some of my favorite moments with them is when like you see it all happening for them, whether you're getting drafted in the WNBA for the first time ever, or somebody calls you and tells you that they got the job offer they wanted, or they come back and they're coaching because they're doing their rehab in the strength room. These are all things that happen frequently for us. And, I just feel really, like purpose fulfilled at that point in my life. And like, that's what makes me love this job is to see them go out and achieve all the things that they wanted and dreamed of and hoped. And, I always say, like, if your dreams they don't scare you, they aren't big enough. Right. So, we want them to dream big. We want them to chase. And when I get to see them do that in reality, and then they're calling me and telling and sharing that with me, it's amazing. It's the best part of this job.